Hey everyone, Lucid has had a less than ideal year in 2023. The stock price is down 35% as of this recording, but more than that, vehicle production and deliveries were less than expected. The company started the year expecting to produce 12,000 vehicles, and then it lowered its target to 10,000 vehicles before lowering the target again to 8,500 vehicles. So you can start to see Lucid came into the year with higher expectations and they've had to lower them meaningfully. Now, does that mean that the stock is a buy for 2024 because of course things have to turn around? Or is it a sign for more bad things to come in 2024? Well, that's what I'm going to look at in this video, looking at Lucid's prospects and what you can expect from Lucid in 2024, or whether or not you should buy Lucid stock in 2024. So let's look at some of the big items from Lucid.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
So some big recent highlights from Lucid that's going to play a role in its prospects in 2024, notably the Lucid Air Pure rear-wheel drive started production in September and it's in the process of ramping up production. This is Lucid's most affordable Air with an unprecedented efficiency of 4.74 miles per kilowatt hour. This is priced under $80,000 and it's the most affordable Lucid Air option. I think the introduction of this model should help increase the number of units sold for Lucid in 2024. Not so much in 2023, right? It's just starting up in September. October, November, really just getting things underway. So in 2024, I would say starting after the first quarter, you can really start to see the benefits of the introduction of this model. Also, Lucid Air Sapphire, the $250,000 model, started production in September and delivered the first set of cars to customers at a special delivery event in October. This is a beast of a car, over 1,000 horsepower, looks amazing. In my opinion, Lucid is the best looking electric vehicle in the market today, arguably one of the better looking vehicles overall. I'm really rooting for Lucid to gain traction, more production, so that I can see more of these out on the road. They are a sight to see, and it's good to see them increasing, but they are expensive. They are expensive. And they don't qualify for that $7,500 tax credit, making it even more expensive. And so you can understand why the sales production outlook has continuously fell. It's just an expensive car, but it's a really, really nice car. It's got best-in-class technology, as you could see evidenced by that Lucid sold its technology to Aston Martin. It closed the long-term strategic technology arrangement for the supply of Lucid's state-of-the-art EV powertrain, battery systems, and software. Aston Martin issued 28 million shares to Lucid and paid the first cash installment of 33 million. When you start to see companies licensing out their technology, it's a sure sign that it is a really good technology, right? Otherwise, Aston Martin wouldn't be paying them in upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars in overall value so that they can license that technology, right? That's evidence that this is really good technology. It is best in class. So there is evidence that Lucid is a premium and has that excellent technology. But again, it doesn't necessarily translate into a good business. It doesn't necessarily translate into a good business. And one of the reasons for that is you could be just over-serving your customers. You could be offering your customers this much, right? But customers only want this much, right? But when you're giving them this much, you got to price your product really high, right? You know, the lowest price model is 77,000, right? The most expensive, 250,000. And so it could be the case that Lucid is just over-serving the market when customers just want this much stuff and maybe a lower price point. That remains to be seen. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but given the lackluster ramp up, it could be what's happening right now. Just something to keep in mind. Also, what's exciting for 2024 is that Lucid will launch its Gravity. Now, if you didn't already see the launch of the Gravity SUV, again, another beautiful car from Lucid. It looks really, really nice. Priced affordably, less than $80,000. That could be a selling point, right? It's comparable to a Rivian SUV, so those prices are upwards in that range. So it's not too overpriced compared to the market. And this, unfortunately, will not be a meaningful part of Lucid's business in 2024. They're on track for the start of production in late 2024. So that and the start of production probably won't be at any meaningful scale. So for the year overall, it's probably not going to have a meaningful impact for Lucid. This is a 2025 driver. This is what is going to drive Lucid's revenue and production higher for 2025 possibly, but not 2024. Still, it's exciting to see the development. Hopefully it gets on track and increase production relatively soon. So that being said, let's look at Rivian's longer term. Let's go back a couple of years and you could see how it has ramped up production and sales. Revenue trailing 12 months of 695 million was down from the peak. This is not something I was expecting from Lucid, given that it's only recently starting the ramp up. We were expecting a continuous increase, but like I mentioned earlier, 2023 was a disappointing year for Lucid and a disappointing year for several EV companies, right? You've heard the news, you've heard it everywhere that the time it takes to sell an EV is significantly more than a regular car. The price cutting, the lackluster demand, the lack of infrastructure has all played a role in consumers saying, you know what? If I had a choice, and more than 9 out of 10 consumers are choosing internal combustion engine vehicles, right? They're just more convenient and they're lower priced comparably, and that's been a headwind for all EV companies, Lucid included. And the operating profitability, it was moving higher to begin the year, but then the lower than expected ramp up has really caused its operating profitability improvement to reverse and heading lower, negative 443%. This company is going to lose money in 2024, probably even in 2025. But what was disappointing was to see the downward move, right? We wanted to see them continue making progress, reducing these losses, but given the lower than expected production ramp, it really turned things around. It began to move lower, and we really want to see progress on this front in 2024. It's not certain that there will be progress on this front in 2024. The cash flow from operations is a similar story. In the trailing 12 months, Lucid has lost in cash $2.66 billion in operations. $2.66 billion. That's a lot to be losing in operations for a company that only generated $695 million in revenue, to lose $2.66 billion in that same time. So that ratio needs to improve, and the way to improve that is to increase production. But you don't want to increase production. You can't increase production if you don't have demand. You can't make more. Then that will be even worse for the company, because it's going to be producing cars that are just going to sit in inventory, and that's going to be eating up even more cash. So you've got to increase demand, and so you can increase production and reduce these losses and reduce this cash outflow from operations. Unfortunately, we haven't seen that yet. We've seen a little bit of a turnaround here, a little bit of a bottoming out. Is it really going to continue? That's what I'm going to be looking out for in 2024 with Lucid. So with all these losses, I wanted to take a look at its balance sheet, how much cash and debt it has. So Lucid has $4.4 billion in cash. So that's a strong cash position. If you look at the pace of losses, $2.2 billion in losses in the trailing 12 months, they've got 2 years of cash. Even at that high rate of loss, which I don't think they're going to lose that much money over the next 2 years. But even if they do, they've got 2 years of cash to make progress. I don't think they'll need it, but they have it. And then they've got $2 billion in long-term debt. So you've got net, you've got $2.4 billion in net cash. And the company is trading at a market capitalization of 10.25 billion. So roughly 24% of the market cap is net cash for Lucid. That's important when you're looking at valuation, because that's, net value for investors, right? Ultimately, investors are entitled to that net cash. Still, Lucid stock is expensive, trading at a forward price to sales of 7.4, even when you consider that 24% in net cash. So all things considered, looking out into 2024 and trying to decide if Lucid stock is a buy, I would say no. I would say it's not ready to be a recommendation for a buy. It needs to make more progress, increase production, get the business on a more sustainable path, and really show that there is customer demand for the vehicles that it's creating. I mean, the vehicles are nice. They're super nice. They look amazing, but they're also expensive. So they've got to find the market for their vehicles and demonstrate to investors that there is a market for these super nice electric luxury vehicles. Otherwise, they're just going to have these really nice, best in class, best technology, best everything, but there's no market for it because it's too expensive, right? There's always a price that you got to get for the technology you're producing. There has to be a market for your technology. Otherwise, even if you have the best and there is no market, you don't have a business there. So you got to be able to produce that best in class technology, but you got to be able to produce the best in class at a reasonable price so that you can offer it to customers at a low enough price to entice them to buy it, right? That's what makes business so difficult, is not only do you have to produce something that's really, really good, but you got to be able to produce that efficiently so that you can offer it to customers at a low enough price to get them to buy it. It's really tough to start a business like this, and Lucid is finding out just how tough it is. If you liked the video you just saw and you want to see more just like it, please subscribe to the channel. I can't keep this channel free without the support of viewers like you. And if you're already subscribed, thank you, and I appreciate your support.